welcome back to my channel. My name is Lucy and I'm an agented fantasy author, and I make lots of videos on this channel about books and writing, and I'm here to tell you today how to write the perfect cover letter to bag yourself a literary agent. So I am literally pulling out all the stops with this. I've got all my notes on here. I am prepared to share with you, and this is the first time I am doing this since getting an agent over 2 years ago now. I'm going to share with you the query letter that got me my agent. So if you're new to my channel, I want to give you guys a bit of context. So I've been writing for about 15 years now, just basically since childhood, since, you know, my early teens. And I also work in the publishing industry. So I have a lot of experience in that way, in terms of like experience that can help inform this video and helped me craft my query letter, because I knew kind of what the industry trends were. I kind of knew how to craft a lot of the pitching that is needed for a query letter. And also, yeah, I think just being in the publishing industry just allowed me to have a little bit more insight into the process. So I'm here to share all of that with you today. But for context, 2 years ago, I queried with a historical fantasy project. And the working title for that project was Season of Mists. Now, Season of Mists did go out in submission last year, and it went out under a different title, so I feel comfortable enough like sharing this with you guys. It didn't get picked up by publishers, and I talk about that a lot on my channel. You can follow along on my writing playlist for lots of updates on my writing. But this year's all been about my second project, and I have lots of updates to share with you about that very, very soon. But let's get back to the query letter. So if you want a big overarching video on how to get a literary agent, I will leave a link down below to my existing YouTube video on how to get yourself a literary agent. And this is packed full of tips. And I do mention query letters in that video as well, but not in as much detail as this video today will go into. So yeah, I queried agents 2 years ago with my historical fantasy project, Season of Mists. And I only queried to 10 agents, and I got 2 full manuscript requests and 1 offer of representation, and that was with the agent that I am currently with today. And I go through the strategies for that in my How to Get a Literary Agent YouTube video. So please do watch that if you've not yet watched that and you want some insight into the process or kind of a step-by-step in terms of how to get an agent. This video, as I mentioned, is just about the query letter. So I am really proud of my query letter. I did a lot of research. I really dived deep. I watched so many YouTube videos. I read so many blog posts. I read so many interviews with agents on how to craft the perfect query letter that addresses everything and also snags in the agent's attention. So this video is going to be split up into a few different sections. First off, I'm going to be doing an autopsy on what the perfect query letter should be. So I'm going to go step by step in terms of the formula of what a perfect query letter should be. Then I will be sharing my query letter, followed by my top tips and tricks at the end of the video. So first off, what is a query letter? I think like if you're clicking on this video, you probably know that, but a query letter is basically what you will be putting in the body of the email to a literary agent. This will be the first thing they read. I cannot overstate the importance of the query letter. If there is one thing that you should try to get right, except from the actual book itself, make sure that's as good as can be, it's the query letter, guys. Like, please don't skip time on this. Like, do not think, oh, it's fine, it's good to go. It probably isn't if you're thinking that. So really just dive deep, really take time to craft it to the best of your ability. So every single agent's requirements are going to be different. And hopefully by this point you have got a hit list of agents that you want to query to. Now, I almost think you should isolate the agents you want to query to before you have your query letter, because on each agency's profile, they will have what they are looking for and what your query letter might need to address. Let's go into the structure. The first part of your query letter should be the housekeeping, is what we're going to call it. This is all the details about your book. So it is your book genre and category, the word count of your book, this is massively important, the title and subtitle of your book. I also, in this housekeeping section, use this first paragraph to tailor to the literary agent you are querying. This is so important. Please do not skip past this bit. You need to be tailoring your query letter to each individual agent you are sending to. Do not skip this step. Do not write a generic query letter because that isn't going to hook an agent in. So I've got an example of how I did this in my example query letter, which I'm going to come on to in a sec. But to do this, basically, I would be like, dear agent, as stated in your agency profile, you know, where you say that you are looking for a book that addresses this, this, and this, or, you know, you're looking for books like this book, I am writing to seek representation for my book, blah. It shows that you have read their agency profile and you know exactly what they're looking for, so that you can just say, I know you're the perfect agent for me, and I know you'll like my book because I know that you like this genre or this book that's like a bestseller or like one of their favorites. Personalizing your query letter is probably the most important thing you can do. And I know I keep going on about it, but like, guys, it's important. So I would always take time to isolate the agents you want to query to first, look at their agency profiles and just have a look. What books do they mention that they are looking to, you know, to sign on more like that book that they really love, or like genres that they particularly love and represent. If they explicitly say in their agency profile that they don't represent your genre, please do not query to them. Your email will probably be deleted, and it is a really cutthroat world out there. You know, it is a really harrowing process. It's not a fun process to go through, but you have to make sure that you're not doing yourself a disservice by querying to the wrong agents. And I think this is hugely important, is to know who the right agents for your genre are. So take the time to really do that work and research. Now, I also want to make a note about your book's genre or category. I think a lot of people get caught out by mis-genreing, is that a word, genreing? Kind of labeling what their book actually is. So for example, you need to know the difference between a romantic fantasy and a fantasy romance, or you need to know the difference between a literary novel, a literary coming of age novel, and a book club upmarket fiction novel. So you really do need to have a look at your genre, just double check that you actually, you know, are writing what you'll say you're writing. Age classification is important here as well. I would say, like, if you are querying a children's book, you've got to make sure that you're being correct in terms of what classification it is. Is it middle grade? Is it YA? Is it a picture book? Is it a chapter book? Like, you need to know the industry enough to know what your book falls under and what age it will be marketed at. So that's really important. I also think in, you know, certain genres like fantasy, it's very easy to fall into the trap of saying your book is adult or YA when really it's the opposite. So really research these terms and look at comp titles as well. So also in the housekeeping section, you are going to mention comp titles. Comp titles are hugely important to a query letter. So some key tips for comp titles. They must be within the last 5 years. They can't be a book that was published 15 years ago that people have probably forgotten about now. They need to be really relevant. I would also, this sounds harsh, but also you need to make sure that they're accurate. If your book is like a vampire romantasy and you are comping it to A Court of Thorns and Roses, that might not be the best comp. You know, maybe you should be comping it to The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. You can also comp to movies and TV shows and like kind of cultural phenomena as well. So with my book that I queried, I comped Bridgerton as in the TV show because that was relevant in the last 5 years, even if the books were published beyond that. Like, it was still relevant within the last 5 years. It's a recent example that, you know, an agent would get that. So my comp was Bridgerton meets The Secret History. Now with The Secret History, obviously that is an older title, it is a classic, but there is no other book that really sums up like that dark academia genre. And also with the, you know, rise of book talk, The Secret History has kind of had a new lease of life. So I'm quite happy with that comp. I think those comps were quite accurate for my book. And I think really have a think about the best comps for your book and include them in your query letter. Now the second part of the structure, so you've done your first paragraph, that is your genre, your word count, what your book is called, the comps, tailoring it to the agent's profile. And your second part of the query letter needs to be your hook. So this is your pitch, essentially. This is what your book is about. Now, please do not forget, this is not a synopsis of your book. In most cases, you'll be attaching a synopsis as well as using a query letter. What this hook is a description of your story with the most kind of critical elements included there. So I would say, like, you don't want to go beyond like 200 words here, like 300 at a push. You know, you really want to keep this succinct and precise. Think about the back of a book, like read the blurb, see how they write it in a way that's really appealing and kind of like hooks the reader, doesn't give everything away. This is your pitch, this is your snappy blurb that gets to the heart of the story. What is the crux of this story and why should the agent care about the story? Then I would say in your final paragraph, you need to include a bio about yourself. So this is who you are. Think about the agent reading this, being like, okay, what would be giving them an insight into how you wrote this book, any interesting things that you've done that could be related to publishing. So for example, if you're a bookseller, you've worked in a bookshop before, you can say I have, you know, 10 years of bookselling experience, blah, blah, blah. That's quite interesting to them. So for example, with mine, I obviously mentioned I've been working in publishing for over 10 years, you know, at a major publishing house. And I also included a little line about the inspiration for the story and my own personal connection to that. I don't know if like that's necessary in hindsight. Maybe I wouldn't have necessarily done that. But I of course mentioned this YouTube channel and my online presence as well. You can say I enclosed the first 3 chapters, which is a usual thing that agents ask for, the first 3 chapters and a synopsis. And then you can just say like, I look forward to hearing from you, best, your name. So that would be the general structure of a query letter. Okay, so this next stage, I'm actually gonna read you out my query letter. So please bear in mind, I only queried to 10 agents. And the reason for this, as I mentioned in my How to Get a Literary Agent video, is because I really wanted to test the strength of my query in small batches. So realistically, I could have gone out to a lot more agents, but now that I have had my literary agent for 2 years and, you know, I've been working with her for a few years, I really do believe that it was kind of all meant to unfold like that, that even though I only queried to 10 agents, you know, I'm very, very happy because the kind of result was getting the agent that I love and is so brilliant and just gets my work and is my biggest champion. So that's all worked out very well, but you may want to go really broad with this. So it's just worth saying that just because this worked for me doesn't necessarily mean it will work for you. I would also urge you, please don't fully copy this. I'm reading this out so you can get a sense of the tone, a sense of the key information, but your query letter is your query letter. It's personal to you and you have to do that research and rewrite it multiple times to get it right before you can then progress with your own journey. So a few disclaimers there. But let's read out my query letter. Dear agent, obviously I would tailor that with the agent's name, guys. As you've stated on your agency profile, that obviously I have researched beforehand, that you're interested in historical fiction as well as novels that feature strong female characters, I am writing to seek representation for my first novel, Season of Mists, which is historical fiction with a speculative twist, that's my genre, completed at 91,000 words, blending the romance and Regency society of Bridgerton with the macabre darkness of the secret history. Season of Mists would find its readers in fans of dark academia, romance and upmarket historical fiction. This line I am quite proud of because you've got the comp titles there, so Bridgerton and the secret history. I have isolated what parts of my novel are brought out in those comps. So I've said blending the romance and Regency society of Bridgerton, not necessarily the genre of Bridgerton itself, with the macabre darkness of the secret history, with a nod there that this book is quite dark. It will find its readers in fans of dark academia, romance and upmarket historical fiction. So I'm already thinking, who would be the readers for this book? I think that's kind of a good tip, is to think about who your readers will be and specify that in your query letter in that first paragraph. Some agents watching this might be like, oh no, like I don't like that line, but I'm quite proud of that line. Then we go on to the blurb. Now, I really don't know if I should read all of this out, but this is basically your pitch. And the reason I don't necessarily want to read this out yet, maybe one day down the future, is because this book was not picked up by a publisher, but it might one day be picked up. So I'm gonna just skip forward. If you want an example on how to write this bit, so the pitch or the blurb, use the tips that I've already given you. So kind of say when the book starts off. So I say, for example, Season of Mists is set in London in 1816 and follows my main character, who is the opposite of what a respectable daughter of a baron should be. And then basically I kind of keep it really snappy, quite succinct, and you can find loads of examples online on how to do this. Then I go on to my biog. So I say I'm an award-winning publicity director working at Bonnier Books UK and have been working in the publishing industry for almost 10 years. I also run an award shortlisted YouTube channel, The Book Bell, Higher, where I make videos on books writing in the publishing industry. I have a particular interest in the Romantic poets and wrote my university dissertation on the poetry of John Keats. My ongoing interest in Keats's life, as well as the poetry and politics of the Byron Shelley Circle, served as the inspiration for Season of Mists. As I mentioned, I don't necessarily think that inspiration section is needed necessarily, but I think it kind of serves as a nice little reminder of the passion of like why I wrote this book. It's because of my knowledge and kind of like obsession with this Romantic poet who's kind of like inspired this book. Then I say the first 3 chapters and a synopsis are enclosed for your attention. The completed manuscript is available upon request. Now this is unique here, this next bit. At the time of writing, I have received a full manuscript request for Season of Mist from another agent. So later down the line, if you receive a full request from an agent for your full manuscript, you should include this line in every query letter you then send out from that point. I would basically always say that like if you have received a full manuscript request, you need to follow up with the agents that you're querying after that. Include it in your query letter so they know just like where you're at in the process and also how much attention your query letter is getting. And then I say, thank you for taking the time to consider my work. I look forward to your response. Many thanks, Lucy. So that is my query letter. I don't think it's too long. I think it's quite succinct and I'm really proud of the first paragraph. And of course it did land me my literary agent, so I am very, very proud of that. Now let's go into my top tips and tricks section. My first tip is to keep it short and succinct. Your query letter should not be longer than an A4 page of paper. Obviously your query letter is put into the body of an email to an agent, or if you're using like a online query tracker type website, you know, you will paste in the body of your email. It should read like an email or like a letter. So yeah, don't make it too long, don't make it too convoluted. Really the key thing about a query letter is like proving that you know your novel and that you know what the agent you're querying to is looking for, but also that you know the industry you're writing and you know the genre that you're writing in. Knowing the market that you are writing your book in is a really important step of this process because it shows that you've done your research and you know that your novel fits in with the specifications that you've said in your query letter. So I would really recommend reading comp titles, like reading books that are in the same genre as your book that you're writing or you've written, so that they could be potentially used as comp titles for your query letter. On top of this, obviously you're watching this video, but I would really encourage you to read as many different query letters as possible. There are so many amazing ones by hugely published writers online for free to look at. So please do look at all these query letters. Like, I don't think it's necessarily like you're copying. You're just getting an idea of the tone, the style. Like, don't copy anything ever, obviously, but like just get a sense of tone, get a sense of like the style and what you need to be including in this. Because as I mentioned at the beginning, you can't overstate how important this query letter is. And I really hope my example helped some of you guys. And, you know, let me know down in the comments if you have any other questions about the process. Another key tip, say you have queried to your first round of agents and you are getting nothing back, like nothing. No full manuscript request, not even a response. After a few months, or maybe after a month, see how many you're kind of sending out and what the response rate is like. Your query letter should always be a work in progress. It should always be a live document. If it's not connecting, if agents aren't getting back to you, you might need to tweak it because obviously something isn't connecting there. Now, this could just be that you're querying to the wrong agents. So maybe you need to go back and research your agents again and make sure you're querying to the right people. Or maybe it's your query letter. Remember, it's the first thing an agent will read. And I think if you have not hooked them in that first paragraph, then you know, you need to look at that again. You need to rework it. So go back to reading a load of different examples. Go back to understanding the genre that your book is in and how it fits that, and the comp titles. A big thing as well. Now, I know some agents who will just ignore an email or just delete it based on this one thing: word count. If you are writing a YA dystopian book and it is sitting at 130,000 words, that agent is likely not going to accept that. Or they're thinking, this author, this writer, clearly doesn't know the word count specifications for their genre. If you're writing a kid's book and it's 90,000 words, something's going wrong there, you know? So you have to know how long each genre is recommended in terms of word count. So for example, with fantasy, it can be anywhere from 85 to 110,000 words. I would say that bracket is like the ideal bracket for an adult fantasy book. Then for YA, it could be between 70 and 90k. I would say 90k is probably on the longer side for YA, but again, I'm not an agent, I'm not kind of an expert in that area. So you need to research how many words is recommended for your individual genre, because this will be a deal breaker for an agent. Some agent is going to look at your book, and if it's like even a fantasy book, but it's at 250,000 words, they are going to be like, instantly they will know that this book is probably not tightly plotted, potentially. Even if you've written a masterpiece, they will query that. They will be like, this is a beast of a novel. Something might be wrong there. So I think take the time. If your query isn't connecting, if you're not getting the responses that you wanted, interrogate your query letter, interrogate your word count. Is it too long? Does it not match up with your genre? Have you got the genres right? All of that matters, and this is why I say do not rush this step, because it is so important. But remember, you can tweak it along the way, and tweaking it in response to feedback is really important. So that's my final tip for you. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all of you guys who click on these videos, especially my writing content, because like it really means the most to me when people watch these videos. So I really do appreciate it. If you want more tips like this, do follow me on social media at BookBellReads, where I share more behind the scenes in terms of working in publishing full time, but also my writing journey, and also just general life fun stuff. And also don't forget to subscribe to this channel, where there's lots more videos on the publishing process, writing, and also romantasy videos as well, because I'm a huge romantasy fan. So do stick around for more. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye.